having a bit of technical difficulty, and Lisa is making her way to us, but she's not on with us yet. So I don't know how to entertain you until she comes on board. Maybe what we'll do is we'll end up deleting this first few minutes because there doesn't seem like there's anybody joining us anyway. I don't know what that's about. Singing and dancing, I don't think so. Well, were those going to Gmail or were those going to? Okay. Well, that might take a little longer, but you never know. It doesn't look like we have any live people joining us, but I also don't know if they're waiting to join because they can't get on because my other presenter's not on. Right. That link should get you right onto this webinar. Are you in? I don't see you. Are you in with me or are you in your own? Great. Okay, so I just invited you to join me. Share the permanent link, bookmark, and come back anytime. Yeah, but that will not be the same one that anybody else gets. I don't think. Lisa, Oxenhandler. Okay, invitation posted. We're friends on Google Plus. Go to Google Plus because I should be on there broadcasting right now. Yep. You're not on mine. Close out of all of those so that when you come back in, you'll be able to just see mine or this one. Do you see anything that says Dreamers Circle? Okay, so go to me. Can you go to Deborah? Do you see an invitation in the corner? Because you want to join one that's already in process. There you are.
Yay!
Awesome.
Hello.
Okay, I'm turning this off.
Okay.
Okay. Now your camera's off.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Uh,
Your picture's up.
let's turn the camera. Turn it on. Yep. Why is it?
I saw you a minute ago.
Okay.
Did you hit it twice?
There we go. Yeah, I must have. Okay.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Starting at this moment, which is 5:07, we'll go ahead and start, and we'll see if anybody joins us. And if they don't, you can coach me. Maybe I need a new job. Okay.
I probably should have printed my stuff then, huh?
Yeah. No worries. I'll read that too for you in just a second.
Okay.
So, let's start right here. And I'll say, hello, I'm Deborah Leanne, and welcome to our monthly Dreamers Circle coaching call. I am a women's leadership catalyst. And what that means is I specialize in working with women who are change makers and want to have a bigger presence and a much larger impact on creating change and inspiring change that they want to see. My guest today is one of our dream coaches as well, and she is, I call her a matchmaker, and I'm going to read a little bit about her bio right here. So Lisa Oxenhandler is a longtime recruiter and qualified career coach. As a heart-centered matchmaker, she realizes most of us spend a lot of our waking hours at our job. In fact, most of our time at our job. And she's adamant that everyone should feel gratified and fulfilled, no matter what their career choice. In her words, no one should settle. That is why her focus is on helping companies find employees that will thrive within their organization, and also steering job seekers out of a comfortably miserable situation and into career choices that are rewarding. Lisa has been on both sides of the desk. In 2011, after years with the same staffing company, she walked out and locked the door for the final time on her 20th anniversary. She was jobless, and her sense of purpose evaporated. At the same time, other life events exploded simultaneously, which left Lisa questioning how to conquer those while resolving her career alternatives. Actually, it didn't take much time to comprehend that there was nothing she enjoyed more or what gave her greater sense of contribution than helping people find that new job or career. To her, nothing could be more rewarding than matching a person to a company which offers that perfect space, the perfect job for them with more money and or a friendlier culture. That's when Lisa struck out on her own as a recruiter and added the title of coach to the role that she had already been performing for years. So welcome. How are you, Lisa?
I'm just fabulous. How about you?
Good, good. First of all, I'd love to hear from you how you take somebody through the career coaching process. What if I came to you, I was newly divorced, I have this MBA, used to do stuff in the corporate world as a consultant and an HR person, but I don't want to do that anymore. I mean, I know I don't want to work in the corporate world anymore, even though that's where I could make good money. Would you be able to help me?
I absolutely can help you. I don't know that I would be able to place you in a position, but I can actually help you walk through the steps of getting to where you decide what you do want to do. Actually, having been in the corporate world, you know what it's like to write a job description for a position.
Yep.
And similarly, everybody has a resume, but most of the time they don't have a job description. And that job description should be everything that they want to see in their new position.
Oh, really? So kind of like a wish list, like you do.
Exactly like a wish list. Yes. So it's a dream job description. Not only with regard to the responsibilities and what they want to do, but they need to think about the culture that they're in. They need to think about the values and the things that the company stands for? Is that still in line with what they want to do? Are they a high energy kind of company and this person's more laid back, or laid back and they're more high energy? When I was thinking about our conversation this afternoon, I was thinking about different scenarios that I've encountered, good and bad. And one of them was a person that we placed. This was when I was with the company. One of that person that we placed as an office manager. It was a small office. They did welding in the back. So it was more of a blue collar type setting, except for this person. She was the only person who did support. Well, on Friday afternoons, they kicked off early. They got together and had a beer within the office, and that person was just not okay with that. She was very not okay with drinking. She was not okay with drinking, period, but much less on the job. So while it may not have been the most professional atmosphere for her, that just really kicked it, and she had to leave the job. So those are the kinds of things that you need to think about when you're looking for a new job.
So what about somebody who's suited like me? I've always been told that I don't fit the corporate mold.
Yeah.
And so that entrepreneurial spirit, I mean, do you support people who are just trying to figure out, I've got all these gifts and all these talents, what do I do with them? I don't know how to package them. I mean, do you do help with like how to present yourself or how to do a resume or any of those?
Sure. Absolutely. And a lot of times I think when a person does come, just using you as an example, when you come with so many talents, it's like, why don't you strike out on your own? Because you do have so many talents that you not only could do for yourself as an entrepreneur, but once again, you're offering so many things to a company that when they see your resume, you don't want them to just think of you as, oh, this one type of person. You want them to be able to see everything that you're able to do. If it's HR, if it's accounting, if it's customer service, if it's management, if it's, and by management, I don't mean necessarily supervising, but are you a good hands-on type person? So again, it takes a lot of preparation to look for your perfect job. But once you get it in as much detail in writing as you can, just like if you went on vacation, just like if you went to the grocery store. Shoot, how many times do you go to the grocery store without a list and come back with all this crud? Well, you don't want all that crud in your job. You want to pretty much, you know, abide by your list. So that's...
Yeah. So do you work with people in presenting themselves? Like the other piece that I found really important, especially when I was in HR, is I told people this all the time, that I don't necessarily look at their resume word for word until I like how they present themselves on their cover letter or on the email that attaches their cover letter and their resume.
Right.
That first impression is, they either get in the door that way or they don't get in the door at all.
Yes.
What do you suggest on that?
That's their first marketing tool, if you will. There are essentially, you know, 5 different, depending upon how you look at it, but I always say 5 different steps in looking for a job or looking for a new employee. Job description is first. The sales portion, which breaks into several different pieces, but your resume is your first marketing piece. Your cover letter, how are you presenting yourself in that cover letter? When you fill out an application online, that's part of your marketing, which all boils down to how well you sell yourself. And the things, and with the way that things happen today, so many things are screened first by a software system. So you have to have keywords. So you have to, those really have to apply.
You don't just say, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
Right? Use really active verbs and say, you know, I'm you know, efficient in my calendar management or whatever project.
Right.
Right.
And not only what your calendar management, but what type of calendar management. So it can be as detailed as that.
True, because different softwares are huge.
Right, right.
So what about if I'm an entrepreneur, and this is something that I helped coach with before, I'm just curious if you do this, and I come to you and say, I can't do it all. I need help. And do you help to define what it is that, I mean, there's the parts of my job that I love, and there's stuff that I don't want to look at, like, but every, you know, once a year in time for taxes.
Right.
Maybe you'll know what that might be. So to support, like, a lot of times somebody, especially who has built a job, an organization, a business, a nonprofit venture from the ground up, and they've done it all, and now they're to the point where I really need to be doing the sales or the communications, but I don't want to do all of these things, but I don't know where I need to hire somebody, and I don't know how much I can afford. And do you support that?
Sure. As far as like somebody who would work for you either virtually or as a temporary or as a consultant, not as your employee. Absolutely.
Either way. I mean, if I were to say, I don't know what I need, I think I probably want a contract person, because I don't really want to deal with payroll.
Right.
You know, I just want to give them a check every month. They just write an invoice to me and I just pay them.
Or you can give me a check and I can pay them. That way their taxes are paid and all that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So that's another way. But what about the whole process of, oh, I don't know. To me, that's, if I come to you and I'm like, I am working 70 hours a week, I can't even see straight. And I've had this happen before where people say, well, how can I help? What do you need done? And I'm like, I can't even break it down for you, because I'm so enmeshed in it all.
Right.
How would you coach them in the separating it out so that you could have a job description for somebody to handle some of those things?
Probably what I would do is ask you the things that you really like to do. And then and then go from there, because once you start talking about the things you like to do, the other things will just roll off your tongue, and that way you can work on getting somebody to do the things that you don't necessarily like to do, that are time consuming, that, you know, just need to be done, but that your attention is better focused on the sales or working one-on-one with someone.
Do you talk to your probably more candidates looking for roles than obviously the employers, but about how to network?
I do to some extent, but I have to tell you that I'm relatively new to networking. So I will tell you that I know that it's an art. I have been coaching more and more about networking. When somebody comes to me, and I have different packages, but when somebody comes to me looking for a new job, and I talk to as many employers as I do candidates, but I probably help more candidates because an employer knows what they're looking for. I do walk them through, okay, here's what your resume should look like, and we go through different tweaks with that. Your LinkedIn profile, which is so critical to being found by employers and people who might want your skills, and networking, and how to, some of the organizations, some of the groups that those people should participate with. And again, it just depends on what they're looking for as to the type of group that they would be networking with, where it would get the most bang for their buck.
Right. And then even that elevator speech, how they shake hands and say, there's that one woman that's in a couple of the networking groups I'm in, and she's like, and I'm in transition, and I'm looking for that next perfect job for me, and it has to do with these three things. And she had it so down that you barely, I mean, her name and what she was looking, how I could help her was all part of her initial elevator speech, if you will.
Right.
And I thought that was brilliant. So somebody must have coached her on how to do that, or else she just naturally knew. But I mean, like, I was just wondering, is that something that you would support somebody coming to you with?
Sure. And to whittle it down to, like you said, an elevator speech of 20 seconds or less. A business card is so essential if you really are out there networking. Following up, just because you give a person a business card doesn't mean they'll think, oh, Gertrude, she's looking for a job. I'll give her a call the next time we have something.
Right.
That follow-up and giving them something that they can take away. And you're, generally speaking, you don't want to walk into a networking event with your resume.
Right. Probably not.
Yeah.
But you can easily email it to them right after.
Exactly. Get their card, give them your card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what other kind of coaching do you do? What if somebody had a really bad experience at a job, and or what, have you worked with people who have been terminated?
I can help them find a job. I can help them work their way to a new job. I can't place them in a job. But, you know, one of the things, too, that I help, as a matter of fact, this morning I met someone who's never worked in the area where he wants to work. He had jobs all through college. His wife has had a couple of positions, which has meant that he's not lived in a town for very long. So he's had a couple of short-term positions. So I just walked him through, okay, here are some of the questions that you might be asked. Here are some of the ways to overcome these objections. When a company asks you, do you have any questions, sure have or some of the things that you might.
Okay, you just froze during that part. Can you say that again? Because the audio is all.
As far as asking questions, when a company asks you, you know, here are some of the questions that you might want to ask. So yes, I prepare them and do some mock interviewing with them.
Oh, good. So they get to role play with you.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll go take it a step further. If somebody's been terminated, I'll actually check the references for that person to see how to overcome.
What the answer. Well, a lot of times people won't hardly say anything, but you can always hear it in their tone of voice. That's how I used to check references, is I would kind of check below the words they're saying to see what the energetics were.
Right.
So interesting when they're like, no, you know, we really just don't ever rehire anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the biggest thing for me is, even after a layoff where it wasn't their fault, is self-confidence. How do you support that? How do you help them get back on track with believing that they are employable?
You know, sometimes I can help them by putting them in a temporary position. Just having them have a sense of purpose. We've had that conversation before. When you don't have a sense of purpose, it can be devastating in many, many ways. But mostly it's that confidence, and then going out and selling somebody on, you know, I'm the best person for the job versus I'm the best person for the job. You give them confidence. They have a reason to get up every day. Generally speaking, employers know if they're not right for this job, they will give them time off to go interview. So that's one of the ways that I overcome it.
That's a great idea. What would you say is the job market like now? Are you seeing lots of smaller businesses, bigger businesses? Who's hiring, who's not?
You know, it's a market right now when a company tells me, oh, it's dreadful out there, there's something wrong with them. That's pretty strong. But something's not right. Because the market is good right now. Now, you know, like anything, there are certain areas that are hot and heavy hiring, and there are certain areas that is more slow. But it is a good market. It's a candidate's market. And as long as a candidate does the right things, and by that I don't mean just preparing their resume. What are they doing with their off hours? You know, are they learning new technology? Are they learning new skills? What books are they reading? All of those things are important in selling themselves to that next employer and getting to the next step. Right. So you have to do your due diligence.
Right. What about, besides the interviewing skills and practicing the questions and answers, what about presentation? Do you talk with them about that at all?
Yes. And how to dress and what to do after the interview, how to follow up. One of the things that I always suggest that after a face-to-face interview is to go out to their car, write a thank you note, take it back to the receptionist, leave it with the receptionist. That way nobody has time to forget who they are, where their paperwork is, or any of those kinds of things. They look like they're incredibly organized and that they really care about the job. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a small handwritten, "Dear Fred or Gertrude, you know, thanks for seeing me today. Can't wait to hear what the next step is." Because, you know, look how many emails you get that just get overlooked. Or look how slow the mail can be by that time. So I always recommend that they take a thank you note back in and follow up. It's about doing what other people don't do.
Right, to stand out from those.
Yeah.
Do you, oh God, I just had a really good question and it's gone, but one of them is, do you offer any assessments? Do you help people pinpoint what they're really good at?
I don't, but I work with a couple of people who do. And so if somebody knows that whatever they're doing is not right and they realize they really want to do something else, I can direct them or have them take an assessment through a couple of other coaches.
Okay. By the way, I do StrengthsFinder, just if you need.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, then definitely.
I've got the full coaching background on it, so it's pretty brilliant. I do that with my coaching clients to start them because I believe it's a way to build confidence when you find out what you're really brilliant at. Yes, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And so, but what about, I was going to say in terms of the market, if you're wanting to try something new, how do you coach somebody who is, you know, I'm coming from the restaurant world, but I really want a desk job now. How would you support that person on making a change over from one field to another?
You know, sometimes it once again depends upon the person, how willing they are to do above and beyond. That a lot of times, if a person's making X, let's just use $50,000 as a server. Chances of them walking in the door and becoming a person working in an office at $50,000 are pretty slim to none. They're going to have to be work their way, maybe not entry level, but it probably won't be, you know, a management type position. So how realistic are they? Are you willing to maybe work part-time in your restaurant job to earn some extra money while you're at this entry level, so that you can work your way in and eventually make the $50,000 that you were making as the server? So, and just helping them determine different paths. I can't really say, oh, this is the way to do it, you know, just a general blanket, but I can, depending upon the person, walk through with them.
Okay. And the other questions I had for you in terms of, like, do you specialize in somebody who's more, like in the banking industry or in the, is it more administrative or IT, or there's so much in the area of health services and tech. So I'm just curious, what would you say is your comfort zone?
You know, for 20 years, I worked in the area of office support, so admin kinds of things. And then when I started working on my own, I took on added areas of focus: sales and marketing, accounting. Right now, I do have a couple of IT type positions and a couple of accounting, which are overlapping with IT. So if I cannot help a person, I will be the first person to say, sorry, I'm not the best person for you, but I can always refer them to someone who can.
Okay, that does specialize in that.
Right, right. Or to help them with their resume or to help them with their whatever.
So who would you suggest, maybe give us almost like a cartoon picture of who would be somebody that is in your mind like the candidate from hell, you know, like the one that, oh my God, I can't place this person, or a company says there's no way I'll hire this person. What would that person be like?
Well, somebody who is a very big job hopper. Let's just say 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. It's never his or her fault. It's always somebody else's fault, the manager, the owner of the company, the whoever. Someone who isn't realistic with regard to salary. If they've been working for 6 months and, well, I've been making X number of dollars and now I want this huge jump because I'm worth it. And besides that, I have my car payment, my house payment. That's not the...
Oops.
Gosh, I could go on for days.
Yeah, you just froze there.
That, right off the bat, that's what I would say.
Okay. You have, because you've frozen a couple times, I'm wondering, can you close any other browser windows that might be sucking up some energy?
Did I cut you off?
Nope, you're here.
Okay.
Don't lose me. Just
yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure. Let me see if this would do. Oh, you know what? I found what happened. I have you.
You probably tried to log me a couple times other places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Better?
So then the reverse of that, who's a dream client that you love working with, that would, if that person walked in today, you'd be like, oh, I can place you tomorrow?
Personality, energetic personality, somebody who's worked in a position, doesn't have to be long-term, 2, 3, 5 years. Somebody who knows what they want, knows how to carry on a conversation versus a yes, no, you know, doesn't ask questions kind of person. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay. And what do you see as the average? Are people able to, oh, well, let me backtrack. I have 2 questions here. One is it better to be employed and looking for a job, or to be unemployed and available to start immediately?
It is better if it's within your abilities to stay employed. It's better to stay employed and look for a job. Most employers are pretty flexible with regard to when they will see you, if they want to see you and you're a good fit for that position. It is hard to explain. I quit a job because I needed to look for a job. It just doesn't make sense.
I always love that one. And the other thing would be, if you had advice to someone who is just not sure what their next step is. They just know that right now they feel like their soul is being sucked out of them, staying in this position. What kind of conversation would you have with them?
Probably, first of all, I want to know why their soul's being sucked out. You know, is it really the job? Because a lot of times people blame the job for things that are going on outside in their real life. So changing jobs is not going to change that part. So I would probably have a conversation as much as I can and build a rapport as well as I can, and find out, okay, is it really the job that's sucking the soul out of you, or is it because you have this job, your husband travels for his job, you pick up the 18 kids and grocery shop and all those kinds of things. The job might be workable if you had other help. So, and if not, then okay, what are the steps that we need to take in order to get you to a better job?
Okay.
And
yeah,
I know that, you know, there's just no standard pat answer. we're dealing with people, we're working with people, and I always, as you know, want to help them find as close to a perfect fit as possible. And each person's an individual. And so I can't say, oh, everybody with the name of Gertrude's got this, and everybody with the name of Freddie is this. It really is a one-on-one. So I'm not being evasive with my answers. It just truly depends on who it is.
Nobody wants to feel like they're working with a head hunter that is just, you know.
Yeah, that's one of the nicknames.
Yeah, don't you love that one? I hated that when I was called that in the 80s.
Yeah.
So tell me if there is someone who's just getting out of college and they went to school for, I talked to somebody who did this. She went to school for dentistry and she decided she didn't want to do that. She just did that because that's what her mom and dad wanted her to do.
Yeah.
And then she gets out of school and she's like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
How would you coach somebody as to what would be good fits for her to start off her career?
Was there anything in dentistry that really made her happy?
Well, let's say she just went to school. She didn't even get into the job, but she just decided she really didn't want to be a dentist.
After
she wasn't going to go on to grad school to become a dentist. So she finished her 4-year pre-health or whatever degree. She's walking around now going, I don't know what I want to do, but it ain't going to be a dentist.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she has a lot of good, even with her undergrad, she has a lot of things that she brings to the table. If she wants to be in the medical world, there are different places for her to go and be a part of that. If she's not really interested in working in medical business, I'm sure that they taught her, or I would think, running a practice. So probably, and again, depends on salary and how realistic she is with regard to what she wants to do.
Right. And a lot of times I think kids getting right out of college, they have an inflated idea of what they're worth until they start interviewing and realizing, oops.
Right. And
I don't think I'm going to find that first job for $45,000. So,
And I think placement from school, sometimes they're not realistic in what they tell the students. Oh, yes, we'll place you in 5 seconds after you've graduated. Well, that doesn't always happen. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances.
So do you see that a 4-year degree is like the old version of the high school diploma, or what are you seeing in terms of educational requirements out there?
I think that's a perfect analogy. It's like the everybody who graduated from high school at one time, now everybody has graduated from college, and now everybody, if you want to be considered for other positions, you need at least your master's. And many, many people go for their master's just because they can't find a job, which isn't helpful. It's really an expensive kind of thing to do. I'm also one who will say, and which I lost a coaching client as a result of, school is not for everybody. This person had quit high school because she just couldn't make it to class. She eventually got her GED, and yet she wanted to be a psychiatrist for kids. Well, if you can't. But she had gone to school for a semester at Merrimack. Again, couldn't make it to class, so she dropped out. School is not for everybody. And you can, there are a lot of people in this world who haven't graduated from college that have done wonderful, wonderful things. I can, name off lots of them, but most people know who they are. So you could be one of those people with a GED and conquer disease.
Well, and some of the new entrepreneurs are people who don't fit into the school mode, They chose to stop and create some business around something that they love doing, and it's served them very well. In fact, a lot of the entrepreneurs I know didn't complete college. They dropped out, started a business, or had this thing that was buzzing in their brain that they just had to do.
Right.
Did that.
Right.
I have a question for you about volunteers. What if somebody has never really had a full-time job, but they have done some pretty awesome things?
I'm sorry. The dog.
I know. I was afraid my cat was going to be over here bothering me. He's left. What about somebody who has done some pretty awesome stuff volunteer-wise?
I think that should definitely go on the resume. And volunteering is definitely something to do. If in the scenario when we were talking about the person who comes from the restaurant and wants to go into an office position, volunteering is a great way to gain experience. It shows, first of all, that you have a work ethic, that you are driven enough to do beyond just the daily whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. It shows that you care about your neighborhood, that is society. Yeah, it's definitely a way to go. Okay.
And I just hit another one, and they keep going out of my mind when you talk. Let's see. So no, you don't need to be. And the other thing I wanted to ask was around somebody who is new to town, or sometimes people that are new to our country who had really amazing jobs in the past, but they get here and they have a language barrier. Do you run into that very much?
Not a lot. Luckily, not a lot. But recently had a candidate who spoke 4 languages. English, she was really very articulate. You could understand everything that she said. The thing with her is that she wanted to work for one of the larger companies, which makes sense because she speaks all these languages. She wanted to be able to travel to those countries and work for this company and use her language skills. Right now she's working for a hotel where eventually, if she wants to, but you have to go through a lot of grief in order to get to that point. But right. Once again, she wanted to work, and so she's doing what it takes to get that job.
So there's you haven't had a situation where it's been a barrier very much, where somebody's English wasn't strong enough to get a job. I mean, I know that there's a lot of, especially technical people. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to ask about is the written language. I mean, I have a very low tolerance for somebody who doesn't spell well.
Yes.
And if they send me something with a bunch of typos even in the email, I think, how could you possibly, especially if it's a management position, but if they have any dealings with anybody outside of the organization, I would not want them representing me or my organization. So I'm curious, what about use of the English language, which unfortunately is, unless it's a bilingual position where they can be using their Spanish or something.
Well,
you run into that very much?
I don't, but in my mind, if a person wants a job, let's just say with you, and they're sending their cover letter and their resume to you, and they haven't taken the time to show it to someone that they know will have a better grasp than they do, then how do you really want them on your payroll?
I don't. I'll be honest. Yeah. And then what about shoot, I keep getting these questions that are like based on that, and then we hold on.
Okay.
It was around if they can. What about somebody that misrepresents themselves? Like, I had somebody that did a really beautiful resume, but every one of his emails to me had so many typos in it. And he said, you know, my wife always reads all of my stuff and reviews it, which is why his cover letter and his his resume was great. But every one of his emails back and forth with me was just filled with typos. Is there an excuse? I mean, is there a way to, mine actually shows when there's typos, mine highlights.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know one that doesn't highlight.
Yeah, unless they're texting or something. I don't know. So the other piece is, what do you find in terms of the more technological we get, and young people are especially not very well versed with telephone calls? Do you do your interviews over the phone or in person, or have you done both, or how do you know how they're going to come across on the phone?
I do both. My initial contact with them is probably an email. After that, it's a telephone conversation, and that telephone conversation can be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. And once again, it depends upon the person, how conversant they are. Are they just going to give me yes, no kinds of questions? I always want a pipeline, for lack of a better word, of good candidates. I may not have the opportunity right this second, but that doesn't mean within 12 minutes I won't. So if I think that there's an opportunity or will be an opportunity, I want to meet them in person. I just get a better feel for them. They get a better feel for me. I've had many candidates say, thanks for meeting me in person. Because that's just
pretty rare.
Yeah, it's just not the standard. But I just feel like I build a better rapport, and because when they start on their interviewing process, I want to hear feedback from them right after each interview. And once I place them in a company, I'm not disappearing from the face of the earth. I will stay in touch with them and make certain that things are going the way that they anticipate they should. Also in touch with the employer. But I don't want to just say, hey, how's the new job? I also want to say, hey, how are the kids? How are, all those kinds of things.
Relationship building.
Yeah. And I can do that better after I've met them face to face.
Great. Now I have a question. What if you've got a pretty good candidate, they go on an interview to one of your clients, and the client calls you afterwards and says, I can't believe that interview, they did this, or they said this, or whatever. How do you coach that candidate for the next time? Do you ever give them constructive criticism?
Always, yes. And that is, it's probably my least favorite thing to do, because it's bad news, but again, depending upon what it is, I always instruct people not to talk about salary, to let me be the good guy or the bad guy with regard to salary negotiation. And sometimes, most of the time, people say, Lisa told me not to talk about salary, but sometimes they'll go in and say, I need $50 million. Well, it's easy for me to say, sorry, you shot yourself in the foot for something like that. But when they say something like, my ex-wife wore that same kind of perfume and it gave me an instant headache and I started thinking of my ex-wife, that's a harder conversation to have. But definitely one that's necessary for just for their sake.
I remember in the HR days, my kids would listen to me have the conversations with people and tell them the people that didn't get the job. It gets down to the final three. The person that gets the job, that's the good news, to pass that information on and offer. And then the other two people, after the offer's been accepted, you go back and you say, I need to let you know the position's been filled. This is a great constructive opportunity for them to learn what they can do better next time. How do you handle that?
They often will say, was there something that I did or didn't do? Or if they don't, they liked you, but the other person was stronger. Next time, I think that if you mention your volunteer experience, that might be the extra push that's necessary to show how strong you are in that, or how well you work with people, or what you will do above and beyond the norm. So again, situational, but I try to give them guidance that will help them the next time.
Okay. I have one final question for you, and that has to do with, you and I know this. We can have a resume that is perfectly in alignment with a job description, and they don't hire that person. They hire somebody who's a different blend of skills charisma, chemistry, whatever you want to call that extra other piece. What would you say is the average that you see when you may have a really good candidate that you just know intuitively would fit an organization, even though the job description isn't quite right, but you're still going to sell them? Tell me what you think is the right blend, because women especially will only apply for jobs when we are totally qualified for something like 10 out of 10 of the requirements. Men will apply for a job when they can do 30, 40, 50% of the job description. They're like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Why? Meanwhile, we are always saying how we hold ourselves back, or the organization's holding us back. Well, it's because we're not actually pushing ourselves forward.
Right.
What do you think is the mix? Is it like 70% experience, or is it so much personality? Is it, I mean, can you give me an idea? Do you have an idea what that would look like?
Well, and from your HR days, you know, the people who apply for jobs, I know how to spell it. Doesn't matter if you have IT experience, I know how to spell it. So you have those and you're thinking, oh my, what were you thinking? And yet you do have the person who, I know how to spell it, I know IT, I say 60%. If you want a number, I say 60%. Because
okay.
You do have the majority. You're not going to frustrate the other person who's on the other end of it. And the worst that happens is nothing.
Right. And the beautiful thing is you give them an opportunity to, I mean, most organizations are going to have to train the person in a lot of the job anyway.
Right.
Because they're going to do it their own way. So I just find it fascinating. I just want to put that out there for anybody applying or wanting to take on a new role, or be promoted, and they're stopping themselves from responding to that job posting, that it doesn't really mean you have to be totally 100% qualified.
Exactly. And particularly if they're asking for a cover letter, put in the cover letter why you feel that this is going to be a good fit, why you think you are the right person for that job. That's that extra sales tool that gives you that extra oomph right from the get-go.
So true. So I just wanted to thank you for your time, and I hope that whoever is listening to this broadcast will find it of value, and will be trying to figure out where we're going to house this, if it's going to be on the Gateway to Dreams website, or if there's just going to be a link made available to all of the dreamers. Not sure yet. So, but anyway, Lisa, thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.
For the tech difficulties that caused us to start a little bit late, we did run a little bit over, but yeah. So right. I appreciate your time, and I will see you soon.
Tomorrow. Oh, can we do the plug for tomorrow for the
listening? But of course,
for the dream. Oh, they're not listening. Dream Tank night.
Yeah.
For tomorrow night.
Yep. Sounds good. Talk to you tomorrow.
Okay. See you. Bye-bye.